Welcome to Who's Right, What's Left. I'm your co-host, Melissa Reinhart.
And I'm Matt Neubauer. We're here to discuss some of the important issues that face Americans today and have some civil discourse and banter between friends and parties.
Who's right?
What's left? Oh, we ready to start?
Mr. Fake News.
Mr. Fake News.
Did the viewers really get a good look at that?
Did they?
Y'all, he paid money for this t-shirt.
For my fake news t-shirt?
Yeah.
Got all the...
Says fake CNN/Fox. Okay.
We included everybody.
Anyway.
Everybody came to the party. So today, anyway, speaking of fake news, let's talk about the crisis at the border.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that as a copper?
Wow. You know, I feel for the guys who work Border Patrol. I think they're understaffed and they're not getting the backup from the federal government that they should. Being asked to do one job and then totally, blown off and look the other way.
How do you feel about the 50 men and women, the Indiana Guardsmen that Governor Holcomb sent back in, I think it was March, or no, early April. They're not going to arrest, they're just going down to observe.
And that may be, that may be their role.
$7 million to send them down there just to watch?
To observe. And I don't think we need to observe much. I think it's pretty well documented what's happening. I think you can talk to your Border Patrol and see what's happening. They're just, it's a matter of just...
Do we need to pay for observation?
No, I don't think we should. We should pay for action.
Okay. Okay.
Absolutely.
What would that action look like? What do you think we should be doing that we're not?
Securing the border.
Okay, right. But what does that look like? A wall doesn't work. A fence doesn't work.
A wall.
Natural boundaries don't work. If people want to get here, they're going to find a way to get
absolutely,
here.
Absolutely. So we're not looking to make it 100%. We're looking to deter it. Okay, a wall will not hurt the situation.
Sure.
Border Patrol agents say that's helpful. It certainly, narrows down the scope of where folks are getting through, which helps them catch folks. So I think so. And the other point is, look, it's not a matter of are we going to have, if we're going to have open borders, let's have open borders. Let's do it. So I think I'm not for that, but I mean, let's not pretend we've got a secure border and then just ignore this huge influx of people who are coming in, and then we're paying for them, paying to house them, to feed them, to whatever. Which all right, I get there's certain, human elements that you need to take care of, but I mean,
they aren't entitled to federal.
No, but are they
employee
getting
benefits, but not like to Medicaid or SNAP or TANF? They're actually not eligible unless there's the appropriation or creation of a Social Security number. Or whole other conversation.
No, I'm talking about the hotels. I'm talking about emergency housing. Well, I'm talking about all that emergency housing, medical, people guarding the border.
And for those who stay, and
and follow a legal path, super, welcome. Love immigration. Child of immigration. Down for it. Here for it. Legally. This mass influx of God knows who. And why do I still have to show my passport at the border?
Because you want secure borders.
Right. I got to show it at JFK, but I could land in Mexico City and take a cab up. It's a little more inconvenient, but if I lost my passport, get handed 10 grand and a cell phone on my way in.
So let's talk about the border.
Okay.
So I was, doing my research, as I do, everybody. I wanted to see how many, people talk about, so many coming over that are criminals, rapists, blah, 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 blah. And that's not to minimize those who are. But I really wanted to understand how many of those that are coming here are. And it's 6% or less. Now, granted, one is too many, right? We don't want a criminal element coming here. But the way that the media portrays these individuals, these families who are coming here, some of them traveling all throughout Central America and Mexico to get here, to lump them again, this is you're lumping them with the 6 or less % who are coming here illegally. I find that problematic.
Well, and I don't think that's the cap. First of all, the 6%. Let's not minimize that. And I know you're not. But I asked the same question. What was the percentage of terrorist passengers on the planes in 9/11?
True.
I mean, how many does it
take? That showed up in my research quite a bit.
One's too many. And the families traveling.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What's the motivation for that?
There's two things. Well, that's been well documented.
Resources.
Well, right. Poverty, dire poverty, and violence.
And we give them resources, right? And I'm down for that once every homeless veteran has a roof over their head and once every homeless person in our country is fed. We don't have the money for that. Mm-hmm. It's just not. It's not an imaginary problem. This is going to affect.
This is huge.
The economy.
And I've lived near one border down there. I lived in Tucson for a year, and I recall seeing the immigration buses going back and forth up and down I-10 from Phoenix to back to the border of individuals they had arrested and taken back to the border. It was a daily event, and and I lived in South Texas for 3 years too. It wasn't too far from the border, and that kind of diversity that it brought. I really enjoyed it, enjoyed it. I enjoyed feeling like I was somewhere different and I was still in the United States. But now we have so many coming that the absorption, are there enough jobs? Are there enough homes? And do we have the capacity in our schools? That concerns me, because I enjoyed the richness they brought to the vitality of those two communities I lived in. And I want them to experience that too. And I'm not convinced that that's happening unless they move to other parts of the country.
Well, I think we all love that. I think we all love that diversity down there. I think
Do you think they do?
I don't know. I think it's certainly a fun part of, I've got family down the Southwest, and I do love going down there. I love the culture, love the food, love a lot of the benefits, that Mexican Americans bring into the Southwest portion of the country and just all over our country. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful culture, beautiful culture, that has a lot to offer. No bones with that at all. But I think. So, before we turn this into an anti-immigration thing, I think the immigration process is the problem. I think that should be extremely easy to get into. If it were up to me, when I'm president, rather, I'm down for setting up immigration stations like Walmart at each border crossing. Fill out your paperwork, get you on the right track, document you, get you on your way. But this unfettered, you can walk across this 2/3 part of this state and be an issue for one state. Texas alone, and law enforcement, and the drugs that are coming over, just ridiculous.
And I did my research there, and looking at what was confiscated from October 1 of, from 2023 to the first part of 2024.
Who was your source for that?
The U.S. Border Patrol.
Okay.
Nationwide checkpoint drug seizures stats. That's where I got that. That over 55% was marijuana. 30% was meth. Cocaine was at 8%, and the fentanyl that came was just a little over 5%. Now, granted, I know it takes such a small amount of fentanyl to kill someone. I get that. And I know 27 pounds was brought into this country last year, which I think they said, oh my gosh, it's just so hard to fathom this, that just 2 milligrams of fentanyl is a lethal dose. That had that 27,000 pounds, that would have resulted in 6 billion
but potentially
lethal doses.
Dispersed properly,
right,
yes.
Right, exactly.
That's the one instance I'm talking about.
Well, the one, right.
Right.
The thing I found interesting in my research is that, okay, first of all, it's...
And that's, let's be fair, that's what they caught.
Well, that's what they caught.
Sure. That's what they stopped. So we don't know if they're stopping 10% or 90%.
But what I found fascinating about the U.S. Border Patrol nationwide checkpoint drug seizure stats is that they said the majority of precursor chemicals for fentanyl, or just fentanyl, even whether it's the precursor materials, the ingredients, if you will, or the full-on fentanyl, the majority of it is smuggled through legal points of entry.
That they know of.
Well,
that they know of. That's all they can document.
True,
what they know
true.
of. So that's what I'm saying.
But the news isn't talking about that. The media isn't talking about that. It's what's coming across the border with the droves of people running across rivers or dry riverbeds and whatnot. And the reality is, it's other drugs that are coming here in far greater numbers. You know, a lot of the research I did was saying, well, why isn't China? Why aren't people pointing fingers at China? Because China is sending these precursor chemicals, these ingredients for fentanyl, to either here, well, they're sending it here and they're sending it to Mexico, because people still produce and make their own fentanyl here. It's not all coming from Mexico.
No, nobody said that. Nobody said that.
Certain news organizations.
No, you guys want to villainize people who want to
you guys? I'm one person.
Democrats. You know who you are. You know you're out there.
Oh, jeez. You're not adorable.
Right.
Not at all. So as you were saying, see, he got so caught up in his cuteness.
I'm saying, we're talking about the drugs and the fact that it's you can't quantify what's coming across. All you can do is use what's caught as a gauge for maybe what's coming across. And 60 billion deaths, big deal.
It is a very
big
big deal.
deal.
Now, you had mentioned, because I was looking at various presidential administrations from the 1970s, from when we were born,
yes,
until the present day, and it really gets to what you were just saying moments ago, that this is it's a mess. You know, Nixon, Ford, Carter, all of them, and the Bushes and the Clintons, everyone tried to put their little nuanced,
yes,
you know, let's create this entity, and this is going to be the be all end all, and it's going to fix the crisis at the border. And then it was about drugs, and then Obama with DACA, right? That was 12 years ago already. I can't believe that. You know, most people don't realize he sent more individuals back to Mexico than any other president ever.
yes,
2.5 million. And then enter President Trump. And, you know, he was zero tolerance, right? And he's still talking about, he's still stumping on that right now. Zero tolerance, right?
Go ahead.
With the completion of the border wall. And I will say, I mean, there were still over 500,000 people that were returned to Mexico under his administration. That's quite a few. But the recidivism went down when Trump was in office. Recidivism is really high right now, when people try crossing the border multiple times and then are returned. Exponentially the last 2 years under the Biden administration. But I guess my bigger point is, even though this problem I don't know if there is fixing it. I think, like you were saying, deterrence. And I think it's going to be through a combination of factors. I don't think any wall. I don't want to, you know, for Trump's wall, it's 6.5 million per mile. You know, that border's 2,000 miles. Now I think they only want to do like 500 of it, but that's a lot of money. And then it costs like 50 to 55 million to maintain the lights and the infrastructure around the walls, right?
And part of that, I think, is the Border Patrol budget. I mean, part of that's a huge budget. I want to point out, though, since you were talking about presidents since the 1970s, I do want to point out, just fun fact, in my observation, every president has acknowledged a border crisis.
Yes, absolutely.
Bill Clinton called it a border crisis.
Yep.
Obama called it a border crisis.
Yep.
Obama did a solid job with it. Props to him for that. It didn't become a race button until Trump. And it didn't become a race topic, and you were racist for wanting to do this until Trump.
See, I don't agree with that. I think Obama received a lot of that. And I think George W. did.
I just don't recall it.
Oh, I do. Because when the data was getting out that Obama was returning so many people, it was not making, it wasn't discussed very positively by a certain media. And then I think too with George W., after 9/11, race became a big factor then, especially Middle Eastern, and then we heard Middle Eastern individuals were coming through the southern border.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Every president we've had since we were children has tried tackling this, and Trump and Obama in very different ways
Mm-hmm.
probably had the biggest impact. And what we have now is I can't believe it's just one person that this has been building for a very, very long time.
Absolutely.
And we can point fingers and say it's our current president. However, this is decades in the making, and we came out of a presidency where there were a lot tougher border sanctions
Yes.
than what we have now.
Would you agree, though, that, with this president, he has been very limp-handed about this, and it's been very, I think, poorly handled, managed, and put out to the American people.
I think there's been a lot of lip service.
It's just, and talking about, and it's just misinformation out there. And I do think that the numbers are increasing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
They
there
are.
this is a massive influx that we didn't see before. And I think part of that is folks know they can get away with it now. Folks see how, and now we've got, more technology. You've got Facebook, you've got your TikTok, you've got all these other sources for folks to talk to each other and communicate with each other about. And you can see even another different topic, but the home squatting that's becoming an issue in some of these cities, some of these larger
You brought
cities,
that up
like
in
in New York.
another
Yeah, absolutely.
podcast we did.
And that is all folks who have no place else to go, don't like the resources that they didn't, they got painted this dream of, you'll have all your hopes and dreams will come true.
American dream.
And think it's just going to be handed to them at the border, and then they get here and that's not true. So now we find out we can go squat in houses, and again, it's a small number, but clearly.
So if you admit that it's a small number, why do you latch on that as a stumping point? You've done that twice now in 2 different podcasts. That's like saying all the fentanyl that's coming across when it's a minority of the drugs.
You still need to make an effort to stop that. You can't just say, well, it's not acceptable. That's not an acceptable margin.
Right, but when you portray it like that, you make it sound like it's a majority, that they're all coming here to squat.
No, that's why I
American
qualified it with it's a small number. It's a small number that's doing that. The rest of
But
them,
you led with it.
no, the rest of them are staying in the hotel that's being paid for by your city tax dollars in New York and your federal tax dollars. Somebody's housing these folks. Somebody's giving them food to eat. Somebody's giving them shelter. Right? And I guess you gotta. It's like having a baby dropped at your doorstep, but
Oh, boy.
you know what I mean? Like, what are you gonna do? You gotta feed and house them, but at what point, do you stop that? And I say at the point where they're coming into the country, everything you can to stop and deter that.
And do you think, you said before that they think it should be handed to them? I've known, you've known undocumented individuals, and I've never known any one of them. Yeah.
No, don't paint it like that. Don't paint it like that.
but
What's the expectation, though? When you come here with your kids in hand, walking across the border, even a single male comes here. Let's even use the single males coming here. Walk across the border, no connections, no resources, no job. What do you expect's going to happen? Are you going to camp for the weekend?
I think they're looking for opportunity.
Where's your tent?
And there are people that will hire them. There are lots of people that will hire them.
That should stop too, unless you're willing to get that employee a green card within the first 6 months.
Do you realize how many different industries that would impact here in Fort Wayne?
You realize
You
how
know
many?
which ones I'm talking
You know how
about.
easy it would be for them to get in a federal program to get green cards for their employees.
It's not that easy, and it's not cheap.
Should be. And until then,
But when you're president,
are we just going to turn a
you can
blind eye?
rewrite that.
Absolutely, we'll rewrite that. Absolutely, we'll streamline that and make it easy.
So
If
they
Tyson Chicken can do it,
they're
yeah. for the employees. It can be done. It's hard. It's difficult.
And it's costly.
It's costly.
People don't realize that.
No, people just want to come in and just have, hey, here's some of our tax dollars.
Yeah,
So we figure
it's
out
not
what
that
to do
easy.
with you.
They got to learn English. They have to take the citizenship.
No, no.
Talking about
I'm not talking
citizenship
about
or
becoming a
just
citizen.
green
I'm talking
cards?
about the thousands of people that come across the border every day, and we ship up to New York, we ship up to Atlanta and Chicago, put them up at the airport, put tarps around them, pretend they're not there. Those folks. That's what I'm talking. What do you do with that? What do you do with that? And what I say is you nip it in the bud. You stop it, ship them back like President Obama did. You lower recidivism like President Trump did. They're just in a holding pattern right now, and it's costing taxpayers billions of dollars.
So,
And again, if once every homeless vet is fed, and once every homeless person's got a shelter, bet next project.
So, detective. So for the jobs, and I'm not saying I'm in agreement with this.
And I'm
but-
not speaking as a detective, since you.
No,
said
but I'm saying that when you're being a smart aleck, I like to say detective. So the jobs that the majority, if not all of these individuals, unless they choose a path to citizenship or get a green card somehow or whatever the case may be, are you willing to pay more money for the products that make our lives easier? You know,
I think in this day and age, with Biden and Bidenomics going on, that's a ridiculous question. I tripled my cost in gas over the last 3 years.
But
So I
it'd be
pay
even
$1 more for a head of lettuce.
it'd be even more.
What's
To
that
absorb
costing
the
us,
cost
though?
of, you know, if we would grant citizenship and make it easier.
That's a wonderful idea. Let's not cross those two. That's a wonderful idea. Citizenship ought to be easy.
But our tax dollars are going to go to one or the other. I mean,
Tax dollars can go to citizenship. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to that at all.
okay.
Just the random opening of the border and just crossing our fingers, hoping for the best, and hop on the bus. We'll ship you to New York, and
So, with the local business owners that employ undocumented workers,
is
have you had these conversations with them?
no. Is it legal?
What, to employ undocumented?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Oh, okay.
You're asking me. I'm not the police officer.
So I'm not. That's not a hard question then. What are we gonna? How many laws are we gonna turn a blind eye to? Are we picking and choosing what we follow now? And this isn't like going from.
No.
you
My
know.
point is that you can have this conversation with me, but have you had this conversation with them? When you said the employers are basically, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but culpable.
Yeah.
That's my paraphrasing.
Yes.
Have you had that conversation with these business owners here locally that utilize?
To what end? To what end?
So you'd rather do it here behind a microphone with me?
Well, I mean, to what end? What are I going to go in and say, I'm going to boycott
Oh my
your
gosh.
company? I don't agree you're employing poor, so-and-so here. Which I'm not, I wouldn't do that. I mean, I'm not, but, I mean, I guess what's your point? It's illegal. Should we be allowed, you think, what? Should we boycott them? Should we have
I don't
ICE,
know. You have-
raid the place? Or what are you talking about?
You were really, you began this conversation with kind of the zero tolerance opinion.
Again,
and now you're getting wishy-washy on me.
no, I'm not getting wishy-washy at all. If you've got a job, I guess you're coming a little prepared. If you're coming with a backpack and a half a bottle of water and expecting to get shipped to some hotel in New York and have all your needs met,
Do you think
that's
they
a
expect
problem.
to get shipped anywhere?
No, they probably expect to have all their needs met right there at the border.
Oh.
I'm sure it's an inconvenience to get shipped somewhere. But I'm not going to just show up in Greece with a backpack and a bottle of water and I'm here, feed me. Where can I stay? Oh, I don't have any money. Where can you got a place I can stay?
But you're
Preferably
also
near the
not
beach.
fleeing for your
But-
safety
but,
or well-being.
Well, if they're all fleeing for their safety, then let's help Mexico out with the army and clean that up. I mean,
Good luck
it
with
can't
that.
be. Mexico's a beautiful country.
It
A
absolutely
beautiful
is.
country.
And the history and prehistory is amazing.
Absolutely. So you can't tell me that everybody that's coming across the border is in fear for their life.
Well, they're not all from
They're
Mexico.
looking for
They're
something
just
better.
walking through.
Well, then that policy globally is the next nation, which would be Mexico. You stop in the next bordering nation is the global rule.
So perhaps that's a future podcast.
Perhaps.
How can we fix the corruption and the violence in Mexico?
Sure. All right. Until that one.
Thanks, everyone.
See you kids later. The opinions and views expressed on Who's Right, What's Left are Matt and Melissa's solely. They are not necessarily the views of the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, or either of the participants' employers. We'd like to thank our production team at influencer.tv. For more information on how to start your own podcast, check them out at influencer.tv.
And don't forget, you can like us on Facebook and Instagram. And you can listen and leave your 5-star review and share on both Apple and Spotify. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
These are important, critical conversations we all need to have with each other for the future of our country. Remember to be polite, make it fun, and we can all agree to disagree.